Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. Major Ethan Carver stood in the command deck of the transport ship Aurora Dawn, his rugged frame silhouetted against the panoramic viewport, where millions of stars glittered like scattered jewels on an endless velvet void. His tousled brown hair, ice-sharp blue eyes, and square jaw gave him the look of a warrior forged from ancient legends. At 35, Ethan had weathered countless perilous missions in the intergalactic transport force, from hauling cargo across galaxies to rescue ops in the heart of war zones. But today, as Colonel Morgan's gravelly voice crackled through the comms, an unshakable unease stirred in his chest. "Transport what, exactly?" he asked, his deep voice steady, eyes locked on the holographic image of his commander, whose face bore wrinkles carved like stone. "Not what, Major?" "Who?" Morgan corrected, his stern visage betraying no emotion. "A female VIP, alien species. Classified intel, need-to-know basis." Ethan crossed his arms, muscles taut under his fitted pilot's uniform, his gaze sharp as a blade. "And what do I need to know, Colonel?" he pressed, a hint of defiance in his tone, though he knew Morgan wasn't one to budge. "That she reaches Centauri Station safely. No name, no reason, just orders." Morgan's voice was cold steel, each word a hammer striking the air. "Your ship departs at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Passenger arrives 30 minutes prior. Get her there, Carver. No failures. Understood?" The hologram flickered and vanished before Ethan could protest, leaving him staring at a blank screen, irritation and apprehension coiling in his gut. He sighed, running a hand through his messy hair, fingers raking through strands as if to banish the headache looming. 10 years piloting ships, from a rookie flyer to commander of Aurora Dawn, and Ethan had never faced a mission this vague. Normally, it was crystal clear: ferry tech from point A to B, shuttle high-ranking personnel across Alliance planets, or, occasionally, smuggle contraband through enemy checkpoints. Dodge trouble, get paid, go home. Simple. But this? He smelled danger, the kind he'd learned to recognize from near-death scrapes in the deep void. A mystery passenger, no name, no background, just a command to get her there. It set his blood simmering with curiosity and caution. Ethan stepped to the edge of the command deck, hand resting on the captain's chair, his gaze sweeping over the blinking green control panels. Aurora Dawn was his home, an aging but reliable ship, its steel hull scarred from past voyages. He'd led his crew through plasma storms, evaded pirate patrols, and even survived a reactor explosion 2 years back. But this mission, it felt different. It wasn't just about survival. It was a puzzle, and Ethan hated puzzles without clues. "Major?" A voice snapped him from his thoughts. Lieutenant Sophia Ramirez, his second-in-command, stepped in from the corridor, her brown eyes glinting with concern. The youngest of the crew, her quick wit and loyalty made her Ethan's right hand. "Everything all right?" she asked, her tone soft but laced with curiosity. Ethan turned, his expression stern, though a faint, strained smile tugged at his lips. "Not sure yet, Ramirez. We're getting a special passenger, and I'd bet my stripes it won't be as simple as hauling spare parts." He tapped the console lightly, his voice dropping. "Prep the VIP quarters. Run full diagnostics, engines, shields, weapons, everything. I want Aurora running like a dream, not a single glitch. Got it?" Ramirez nodded, her dark ponytail swaying. "Yes, sir. But did Colonel Morgan say anything about the passenger? I mean, why all the secrecy?" Ethan shrugged, his gaze drifting to the viewport, where a distant galaxy spun silently. "Just important and don't ask questions. But if I had to guess, we're stepping into something bigger than usual." He met her eyes, his voice firm. "Get to work, Lieutenant. I don't want surprises when that passenger boards." Ramirez nodded again, turning to leave, her footsteps echoing down the metal corridor. Ethan stood alone, hands still on the chair, the unease now a heavy weight. He stared at the starfield, where the stars seemed to whisper secrets he wasn't ready to hear. A decade in space had taught him nothing was random, and a mission like this was no small thing. Who was this woman? Why the Alliance's tight lips? And why did he feel this trip would change everything? He flicked on the internal comms, his voice booming through the ship. All hands prep for a new mission. Check stations, report any issues immediately. We launch at 7 a.m. No mistakes. Shutting off the comms, Ethan sank into the captain's chair, eyes fixed on the screen. His gut rarely lied, and right now, it was screaming that Aurora Dawn was about to sail into a storm no one saw coming. The next morning, dim light from a nearby dwarf star filtered through the port windows, casting a cold silver sheen over Aurora Dawn's metal hull. Ethan Carver stood at the docking bay, his polished military boots tapping rhythmically on the steel floor, his icy blue eyes scanning the area. He'd been up since dawn, triple-checking every system, antimatter engines, plasma cannons, all of it. This mission, vague as it was, allowed no room for error. When a sleek silver shuttle appeared on the horizon, gliding in with engines purring like a whisper, Ethan crossed his arms, tension tightening his chest. The shuttle landed precisely on time, not a second off, a precision he couldn't help but respect. The shuttle's hatch hissed open, revealing 2 Alliance security officers in glossy black armor, their faces hidden behind tinted visors, energy rifles slung at their sides. Between them stood a petite figure draped in a long cloak, hood shadowing all but her slender hands, their skin shimmering like woven starlight, reflecting the dock's glow in tiny prismatic sparks. Ethan's brow furrowed, sensing an otherworldly aura from her, as if she carried a fragment of the cosmos in every movement. One guard stepped forward, his voice flat through a modulator. "Major Carver, your passenger, as ordered." He handed Ethan a sealed data chip, its metal surface cold against his fingers. Ethan nodded, his eyes still on the cloaked figure. "Thanks," he said curtly, then extended a hand toward her. "Welcome aboard Aurora Dawn. I'm Major Ethan Carver, commander of this run." The hood tilted up, revealing deep violet eyes that glimmered like a nebula swirling in darkness. Those eyes caught Ethan off guard, as if they could pierce through his hardened pilot's exterior to the hidden corners he rarely acknowledged. "Thank you, Major." Her voice rang out, clear as a bell in a breeze, carrying a strange cadence, familiar yet alien, like a song from an undiscovered world. She lowered her hood, unveiling a delicate face, human-like but sharper, its features carved with crystalline precision. Glowing blue veins traced her cheeks, pulsing like a heartbeat, radiating a vibrant energy that seemed to hum in the air around her. "I am Silvara of the Veilus," she said, her voice soft but weighted with an unspoken gravity. Ethan nodded, maintaining his professional mask, though questions surged in his mind. Veilus? He'd heard whispers of them in spaceport bars, a reclusive race at the galaxy's edge, famed for tech far beyond the Alliance's grasp, rarely seen by outsiders. He gestured for her to follow, leading her through Aurora Dawn's metal corridors, their footsteps echoing in the quiet. "Name's fine, Silvara," he said, his tone calm but tinged with curiosity. "The trip to Centauri Station's 8 days, maybe more if we hit snags. Your quarters are in the VIP section, bed, entertainment system, synth food, the works. But deep space comms are restricted, per security protocols." He glanced at her, noting her fluid movements, like a dance defying the ship's gravity. "Anything you need, internal comms connect straight to me or the crew." Silvara smiled, her violet eyes flashing like twin stars, and that smile sent an odd warmth through Ethan, which he quickly suppressed. "I won't need comms, Major," she replied, her voice gentle but resolute. "I only need safety." The words sent a chill through him, as if she'd hinted at a truth he wasn't ready to face. Safety? From who, or what? He stopped at the VIP quarters, a spacious room with white walls and a faux window displaying a simulated galaxy. He pressed a button, the door sliding open to reveal modern, minimalist decor. "Your room," he said, stepping aside. "Any issues, call me." Silvara entered, her cloak brushing the floor, the glowing veins on her skin casting intricate patterns on the walls, like a living star chart. She turned, her violet eyes locking onto his for a moment, as if weighing him. "Thank you, Ethan," she said, using his name for the first time, her voice a whisper yet intimate, catching him off guard. He nodded, sealing the door, but lingered outside, hand on the control panel. Silvara Vallis. Who was she truly? A princess, a scientist, or something far more dangerous? He shook his head, trying to shake off the strange pull she had on him, and headed back to the command deck. En route, he activated the internal comms. Lieutenant Ramirez, report ship status. Passengers aboard, we launch on schedule. Stepping into the command deck, he found Ramirez at the controls, her eyes alight with curiosity. Major, the passenger, what's she like? Ethan sank into the captain's chair, his gaze drifting to the viewport as Silvara's shuttle departed. She's a puzzle, Ramirez, he said, his voice low. And I've got a feeling we're about to find answers, whether we like them or not. 3 days since Aurora Dawn left port, the deep void enveloped the ship like an endless black curtain, speckled only by distant, twinkling stars. Silvara Vren, the ship's enigmatic passenger, had become a ghost in the metal corridors. She rarely left her VIP quarters, emerging only in the dead of night to stand silently on the observation deck, her violet eyes fixed on the cosmos. The glowing blue veins on her shimmering skin pulsed like a living heartbeat, as if whispering secrets no one aboard could decipher. The crew, though curious, kept a respectful distance, sensing something both captivating and unsettling about her, a presence both alluring and ominous. Lieutenant Ramirez once whispered to Ethan that Silvara seemed to carry a piece of the galaxy in her every step, and though Ethan didn't admit it, he couldn't deny the feeling. In his small office, Ethan sat at his desk, the green glow of a fuel report screen casting shadows on his angular face. Numbers danced across the display, but his mind drifted to Silvara. 3 days, and she remained an unsolved riddle. She ate sparingly, spoke little, and when he tried engaging her via comms, her responses were brief, polite, but guarded. She's hiding something, he muttered, fingers tapping the desk. He wasn't paranoid, but a decade in space had taught him secrets often came with danger. About to review the ship's logs, a shrill alarm shattered the silence, jolting him to his feet, heart pounding like a war drum. Major, to the command deck, now! Ramirez's voice blared through the speakers, sharp and urgent. Ethan bolted from the office, boots slamming against the steel floor, the corridors flashing red with emergency lights. He raced through sliding doors, mind racing with possibilities. Engine failure? Plasma storm? Or worse, an attack? Bursting into the command deck, he found the air taut as a bowstring. The crew hunched over consoles, eyes glued to the main screen, where 3 unidentified ships loomed like specters, closing fast from starboard. Unknown vessels, no response to hails. Captain Patel, the tactical officer, reported, his calm voice edged with unease. He pointed at the screen, where the enemy ships moved with lethal precision. Not civilian. Weapons locked. Space pirates, Ethan growled, gripping the captain's chair, his icy gaze scanning the screen. This sector, the edge of the Epsilon cluster, was notorious for pirate gangs, but they rarely dared target an armed alliance ship like Aurora Dawn. That meant one thing: this wasn't random. Raise shields! Arm weapons! He barked, his voice a blade slicing through the chaos. A blast rocked the ship as an energy burst struck the hull, lights flickering. Shields at 70%! Patel shouted, fingers flying over the console to analyze the hit. Ethan clenched his jaw, ordering a counterattack. Focus fire on the lead ship! Ramirez, evade Zeta pattern! Aurora Dawn roared back, plasma cannons unleashing brilliant beams, forcing one enemy ship to veer off, but the others danced nimbly, targeting the main engines. They want to cripple us, Ethan realized, a chill racing down his spine. If the engines went down, they'd be stranded, easy prey for looting, or worse. Then, like a bolt, it hit him, Silvara. This wasn't a standard raid. They were after her. Before he could order a check on the VIP section, the command deck's door slid open, and Silvara stepped in, her calm eerie amidst the chaos. Gone was her cloak, replaced by sleek armor that highlighted the glowing blue veins pulsing across her body, like living circuits. The veins flickered faster, betraying tension her serene face hid. "Major," she said, her clear voice cutting through the alarms. "They're here for me." Ethan spun, his blue eyes locking onto her, heart pounding harder. Silvara's violet eyes blazed, not with fear but with a deep resolve, as if she'd anticipated this moment. "Who are you, really?" he demanded, his voice low but heavy, craving answers. The crew paused for a heartbeat, glances darting between them, the air thick with tension. Silvara smiled, a cryptic blend of gentleness and danger. "Someone who can help, if you'll let me," she replied, stepping toward the console, her glowing veins flaring as if ready to ignite. The ship shuddered again, another hit dropping shields to 60%. Ethan gripped the chair, mind racing. Trust her? Or doubt her? But those violet eyes told him time was running out. "Fine," he said, voice iron. "You've got 30 seconds to prove you're worth trusting." Silvara nodded, her fingers flying over the console with impossible speed, as if she'd mastered Aurora Dawn's tech. The crew exchanged looks, half awed, half skeptical, but Ethan signaled them to carry on. Whoever Silvara was, she held the key to survival, or a trap that could doom them all. Aurora Dawn shuddered violently, as if gripped by an invisible fist. Lights in the command deck flickered, consoles flashing urgent warnings. "Main power's out! We're on auxiliary!" Lieutenant Ramirez yelled, her voice fraying amid the blaring alarms. Ethan Carver stood firm by the captain's chair, hands clamped on its arms, his icy blue eyes sweeping the main screen. The 3 enemy ships still prowled outside, dark and jagged like blades slicing the night. They'd ceased firing, but their presence was a silent threat, waiting for their prey to falter. Ethan turned to Silvara, who stood by the console, her blue veins glowing vividly in the red emergency light, like pulsing energy veins. "What's your plan?" "Talk," he ordered, his voice low but sharp, betraying no waver. Silvara didn't answer immediately, her violet eyes scanning the screen, as if reading a language the crew couldn't see. She moved to the tactical console, her slender fingers darting over the keys, inputting an unfamiliar code sequence at a speed that left Captain Patel, standing closest, gaping. "I'm generating a false energy pulse," she said, her clear voice carrying the weight of confidence. "It'll make them think we've jumped to hyperspace." Ethan frowned, his chest tight with pressure. "A fake pulse? That'll expose our real position if they've got advanced scanners." He stepped closer, eyes fixed on the flickering veins on her hands, as if they might reveal her true intentions. Silvara looked up, her violet eyes locking onto his, unwavering. "Not if you trust me," she said, her voice soft but resolute, like a vow etched in stone. Ethan clenched his jaw, mind racing with calculations. Trust her? A woman he knew only by name and vague origins? But the ship was bleeding power, shields failing, and the crew looked to him for a call. No time for doubt. "Do it," he nodded reluctantly, his voice a command carved in iron. Silvara hit the key, and a surge of blue light erupted from the console, rippling through the ship's circuits. Suddenly, Aurora Dawn went dark, every light snuffed out, leaving only the crew's ragged breaths and the glow of Silvara's veins, illuminating the deck like an eerie flame. Through the main screen, Ethan saw the enemy ships circling, their engines dimming, as if disoriented. One began scanning space but found no trace. They think we jumped," Ramirez whispered, her voice a mix of awe and relief. Ethan turned to Silvara, eyes narrowing. "How'd you pull that off?" he asked, his tone low, equal parts curious and wary. Silvara faced him, the glow on her skin fading, as if her energy had been spent. "A Veilus technique," she replied, her voice soft but tinged with pride. "We manipulate energy in ways other species can't. I created a digital ghost, making their radars read a fake hyperspace jump." She paused, her gaze darkening. "But it only buys us time. They'll return if they don't find wreckage." The crew exhaled, some exchanging glances, but Ethan didn't let relief sway him. She was too skilled, too composed, as if she'd prepared for this. It unnerved him. The enemy's ships finally vanished from the screen, and light returned to the command deck, but Ethan's eyes stayed on Silvara. "Time to come clean," he said, his voice low and sharp as a blade. "Why are they hunting you? No games." Silvara sighed, her cheeks glowing, veins pulsing slowly, as if echoing a deep sorrow. "In your quarters, Major," she said, her eyes lowering. "This isn't for everyone's ears." Ethan nodded, though doubt crept in. What was she hiding? Was she truly a victim, or part of a larger scheme? Before they left the deck, Captain Patel pulled Ethan aside, his eyes tense, voice a hurried whisper. "Major, I found an internal signal sent out just before the pirates hit. Someone on this ship contacted them." Ethan froze, blood rushing to his head. A traitor? On his ship? His gaze swept the crew, Ramirez, Patel, the techs, people he trusted through countless missions. "Keep it quiet," he ordered, voice barely audible. "Find them, Patel. Whatever it takes." Patel nodded, his eyes sharp, and a chill gripped Ethan. Someone had betrayed them, and now everyone was a suspect, even Silvara. Turning back, he saw Silvara waiting, her violet eyes seeming to pierce through him, as if she knew something he wasn't ready to face. Ethan gestured for her to follow, his heart heavy. This twist didn't just threaten the ship, it shook his trust. If there was a traitor, who could he rely on? And Silvara, with her glowing veins and untold secrets, was she the key to survival, or the spark of disaster? Aurora Dawn fell silent, save for the faint hum of auxiliary power. Ethan stood in the command deck, his icy blue eyes locked on Silvara, heart pounding. Patel's words, a traitor on board, stabbed like a knife in his mind. "Come with me," he ordered, voice low, gesturing her out. Silvara nodded, her blue veins flickering slowly, as if sensing the storm within him. The crew watched, eyes tense, but Ethan didn't pause. The cold metal corridor echoed with his heavy steps, each one a warning, he needed truth, now. His quarters door slid open, and he stepped in, turning to her. "Sit," he said, voice hard as steel. "And start talking, Silvara. All of it." The air grew heavy, like the calm before an explosion, and Ethan knew her answers would shape everything. In Ethan's cramped quarters, the air felt stifling, charged with the tension between the two figures seated across a simple steel table. Dim overhead light cast shadows on Ethan's angular face and glinted off Silvara's shimmering skin. She sat opposite him, hands clasped tightly in her lap, the glowing blue veins on her skin pulsing like the heartbeat of a living entity, betraying emotions her serene face masked. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his icy blue eyes tracking her every subtle movement, like a hunter sizing up prey, or a potential ally. Captain Patel's whispered warning of a traitor echoed in his mind, tainting Silvara's every word with suspicion. "I am Silvara Vren, the last princess of the Velis," she began, her voice clear but heavy with a mournful weight, like an ancient ballad of lost glory. "My people once ruled a star empire, spanning hundreds of solar systems. We built wonders beyond the Alliance's imagination, powered by the star pulse, a living energy that linked everything, from starships to our very essence." She paused, her deep violet eyes dropping to her hands, where the glowing veins flared and dimmed, as if telling their own tale. "But a century ago, the Karith, our closest allies, betrayed us. They stole the star pulse's secrets, weaponized it, and in a single night, our homeworld crumbled, reduced to ash among the stars." Ethan listened, grappling with the enormity of her words. He'd heard tales of ancient empires, but the Velis were a vague name in intelligence reports, often dismissed as myth. "And where do you fit into this?" he asked, his voice low, eyes never leaving her. Silvara looked up, her violet gaze locking onto his with a sincerity that made him falter, though he clung to his hardened facade. "I carry the star pulse within me," she said, touching her chest lightly, where the veins glowed like a miniature reactor. "It's not just technology, it's part of me, a living energy that can rebuild or destroy energy systems. The Karith want me, not just to harness the pulse, but to dominate the galaxy. With me, they could disable Alliance fleets, paralyzed planets, or worse. Ethan leaned back, the weight of her words settling like a boulder on his shoulders. Her story didn't just explain the recent attack, it painted a terrifying vision, a galactic war with Silvara as the key. He rubbed his face, fighting to stay sharp. Centauri Station? He asked, voice low, eyes narrowing as if to pierce her mind. Silvara gave a faint smile, tinged with bitterness. Where my father, the last Veilus king, hid a data vault. It holds proof of Caritha's crimes, protocols, plans, and the locations of stolen star pulse weapons. If I reach Centauri and present it to the Alliance Council, we can stop Carith before they ignite a war. She paused, her gaze darkening, as if wrestling with a heavier secret. Major, she said, her voice softening to a near whisper, I know you didn't sign up for this. I'm a burden, a target, and maybe a danger. But I need you. Not just to reach Centauri, but to keep the galaxy from falling into darkness. Her violet eyes met his, their honesty stirring a strange warmth in him, which he quickly suppressed. He nodded slowly, hands gripping the chair. Call me Ethan, he said, his voice low but resolute. And we'll get to Centauri, whatever it takes. But Patel's warning rang like an alarm in his head, there's a traitor on board. If Silvara was telling the truth, she was Caritha's prize, but if she was hiding something, or worse, part of a larger scheme, he was leading his crew into a trap. He leaned forward, eyes sharp. Anything else, Silvara? If I'm risking my crew's lives for you, I need the whole truth. She sighed, her cheeks' veins pulsing slower, as if weighing her words. There are things I can't yet say, she admitted, her voice small but unflinching. Not because I don't trust you, but because they're too dangerous, even for me. Ethan clenched his jaw, suspicion deepening. How dangerous? He asked, his voice cold as ice. Silvara met his gaze, her violet eyes heavy with sorrow. Enough to destroy us all, if they fall into the wrong hands. Her words thickened the air, as if the void's darkness had seeped into the room. Ethan stood, moving to the door, hand on the control panel. You'll be watched closely, Silvara, he said without turning. Not because I don't trust you, but because I can't afford to gamble. She nodded, her veins flaring once before dimming. I understand, Ethan, she whispered. As the door slid shut, Ethan lingered in the corridor, his heart heavy. Was Silvara an ally or a threat? And with a traitor on board, could he protect her, and his crew, before the truth surfaced? Aurora Dawn groaned like a wounded beast, its steel hull scarred from the pirate's skirmish. In the command deck, Ethan Carver stared at the damage report screen, his icy blue eyes hard. The main engines were critically damaged, shields nearly collapsed, and auxiliary power was dwindling. He clenched his jaw, ordering maximum conservation. Corridor lights dimmed, heating cut everywhere but medical and command. The ship's temperature plummeted, breath forming white clouds, metal corridors freezing like ice. Ethan checked on the crew, his military boots pounding the floor. In the common area, he found technicians shivering in thin thermal gear, faces pale. Hang in there, he said, his voice low and commanding. We'll fix the ship. Just hold out a few days. A young tech nodded, but his exhausted eyes betrayed doubt. Ethan's fist clenched, the weight of responsibility crushing. He was their commander, yet even he wasn't sure Aurora would reach Centauri Station. Back in the command deck, Ethan paused. Silvara Vren stood beside Lieutenant Ramirez, studying a star map on the screen. Her blue veins glowed faintly, pulsing slowly, as if drained by the cold. She wore the sleek armor from the battle, no cloak to shield her. Ramirez glanced at Ethan, silent. You okay? He asked, noticing Silvara's slight tremble, her slender shoulders hunching against the chill. Silvara turned, her violet eyes dim but sparkling, though their light was faint. Veilus don't handle cold well, she said, her voice clear but weak. She crossed her arms, trying to conserve warmth. I don't want to take your resources. Ethan frowned, torn between irritation and admiration. She was a target of galactic enemies yet asked for nothing, despite her obvious discomfort. You can't freeze before Centauri, he said, voice firm. Come with me. He led her to his quarters, where the heater still functioned, emitting faint warmth. The small room held only a bed, a desk, and a few family photos on the wall. Ethan opened an emergency locker, pulling out a thermal blanket, a thin device that radiated strong heat. He activated it, a soft orange glow spreading. Use this, he said, handing it to her, his expression stern. Silvara eyed the blanket, then him, her violet eyes flashing with mischief. It's big enough for two, she teased, her voice light. In Valus, sharing warmth is common. It shows trust. Ethan flushed, shaking his head. Against regs. Her smile widened, both innocent and provocative. I won't report you if you don't. Ethan sighed, relenting. Fine, but only because I can't lose my passenger. They slipped under the blanket, sitting close on the bed, warmth spreading, banishing the cold. Silvara's hand brushed his, her veins flaring, as if reacting to the contact. Your skin, it's so warm, she whispered, her voice soft as a breeze. Ethan chuckled, masking his unease. If this is normal for Valus, I'm starting to like your culture. The room grew quiet, only the heater's hum filling the silence. Silvara suddenly placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. In Valus, a heartbeat reveals understanding, she said, her violet eyes locked on his. You're stronger than I thought. Ethan felt the warmth of her touch, his pulse quickening. Humans have a few quirks, he quipped, but her gaze held him fast. Abruptly, Silvara's expression turned somber. I'm not sure I'll make it to Centauri, Ethan, she said, her voice a soft confession. Ethan froze, blood rushing to his head. What do you mean? He demanded, voice low and sharp. She opened her mouth, but an alarm blared, shattering the moment. Ramirez's voice crackled through the speakers, panicked. Major, command deck! Something's on radar, not pirates! Ethan sprang up, pulling Silvara to her feet, the blanket falling. Move! He ordered, heart pounding. Her words haunted him, but a new threat loomed, and he had to keep the ship, and her, alive. Alarms screamed through Aurora Dawn, tearing the silence apart. Major, something's on radar! Ramirez's voice blared through the speakers, urgent and sharp. Ethan Carver burst from his quarters, dragging Silvara with him, his heart hammering like a war drum. The metal corridors were frigid, red emergency lights flashing, glinting off Silvara's sleek armor, where her blue veins glowed faintly. They raced to the command deck, where the crew hunched tensely over the main screen. A massive ship, like a derelict wreck, materialized from the void, its matte black hull laced with pulsing red veins, like a monster's bloodstream. No signal, but it's moving straight for us, Captain Patel reported, fingers flying over the console. Ethan gripped the captain's chair, eyes icy. Raise shields, he barked, but Patel shook his head, voice strained. Shields at 20%, Major. Aurora's too weak. Silvara stepped forward, her violet eyes wide, locked on the screen. Her veins pulsed rapidly, as if sensing the threat. That's a Karith ghost ship, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. An experimental weapon, AI-controlled, powered by stolen star pulse. Ethan spun, eyes narrowing. You know it? Silvara nodded, her gaze darkening. I saw its designs in my father's data vault. It's programmed to hunt star pulse carriers, me. Before Ethan could press further, a searing red energy beam shot from the ghost ship, striking Aurora Dawn, shaking it violently. Lights flickered, metal groaned. Shields at 10%! Patel yelled. Ethan clenched his jaw, gripping the chair. Ramirez, evade Zeta pattern! Patel, prep for emergency hyperspace jump. But Silvara grabbed his arm, her cold fingers strong. No, Ethan, she said, voice sharp. If we jump, it'll follow. I can disable it, but I need to get inside. Ethan turned, eyes blazing. Inside that damn ghost ship? You're insane! Silvara gave a faint smile, her violet eyes gleaming with resolve. Trust me, like you did before. He stared, mind racing. Aurora was crumbling, the crew looking to him for orders. No options left. Fine, he growled. Ramirez, prep the small shuttle. Patel, keep the ship steady. He faced Silvara. You're with me. If this is a trap, I'll deal with you myself. The crew scrambled, readying a shuttle in the hangar. Ethan, Silvara, Ramirez, and 2 security officers, Sergeant Kane and Private Torres, boarded, energy rifles primed. The shuttle launched, hurtling toward the ghost ship, its black hull seeming to swallow light. They landed in an empty bay, dark corridors stretching ahead, lit by pulsing red energy veins, eerily like Silvara's star pulse but twisted, diseased. They copied our technology, Silvara whispered, her voice shaking, her veins flaring as if reacting to the environment. Ethan led, rifle raised, eyes scanning the dark. Stay close, he ordered, voice low. The air was heavy with burned metal. A distant metallic screech made Torres flinch. What the hell was that? He muttered. Silvara stayed near Ethan, her veins glow lighting the path. Combat drones, she said softly. They guard the ship's core. If we reach it, I can use the star pulse to shut it down. Ethan nodded but doubt nod. She knew too much, and each step in this ship felt like a trap. Suddenly a drone emerged, its red eyes blazing, firing energy bolts. Ethan shoved Silvara down, returning fire, plasma tearing the drone apart. Move! He roared. The group sprinted through the corridor, drone screeches trailing. Kane downed another, but Torres screamed as a bolt grazed his shoulder, dropping him. Ramirez hauled him up, eyes panicked. How far? Ethan snapped at Silvara. She pointed ahead, where the red glow intensified. Close, she said, but her violet eyes betrayed fear. Ethan gripped his rifle tighter, heart pounding. They were diving into the beast's heart, and he wasn't sure who was hunter or prey. Inside the ghost ship, dark corridors hissed with the screeches of combat drones, their red eyes firing lethal energy bolts. Ethan Carver led, rifle raised, his icy blue eyes piercing the gloom. Silvara, Ramirez, Kane, and Torres followed, their ragged breaths mingling with clanging metal. The air reeked of burnt steel, the walls' red energy veins pulsing like a living monster's veins. Ethan signaled the group forward, teeth gritted. A drone lunged from a shadow, and Ethan shot it down, plasma shredding its core, debris scattering. Keep formation, he growled, his deep voice cutting through the drone's wails. A searing red bolt struck Torres' shoulder. He collapsed, blood soaking his armor, screaming in pain. Kane dragged him to a wall, eyes wild. You good? Kane asked, voice urgent. Torres clenched his teeth, clutching his wound. I'll live, hurts like hell. Ethan scanned, spotting 3 more drones closing in. Ramirez, cover! He barked. Ramirez fired rapidly, but the drones dodged, swift as specters. Ethan felt the pressure crushing him. They were being hunted. Silvara stepped forward, her blue veins blazing like fire in the dark. She raised a hand, conjuring a fragile energy shield that blocked a drone's bolt. The shield shuddered, then shattered, but Kane shot the drone, its explosion lighting the corridor. Ethan turned, stunned. How many tricks you got? He asked, blasting another drone, plasma ripping the air. Silvara gave a faint smile, her violet eyes tinged with sorrow. More than you'd think, she said softly. But each use of the star pulse shortens my life. Her confession hit like a blade, staggering Ethan, but a new drone's screech snapped him back. We'll deal later, he growled. Keep moving! The group raced through the maze of corridors, the red veins glowing brighter, guiding them to the ship's core. A massive reactor loomed, blazing red, its energy roaring like a beast's heart. The air scorched, thick with burnt metal. Silvara stopped, her violet eyes locked on the core, veins pulsing rapidly. I need to touch it, she said, voice resolute. Use the star pulse to disable it. Ethan frowned, heart pounding. How? She met his gaze, eyes heavy. I'll merge my pulse with the core. But I might not wake up. Ethan grabbed her shoulders, eyes blazing. No, Silvara! Find another way! His grip tightened, as if to anchor her. She shook her head, her hand brushing his, warmth from her veins spreading. It's the only way, Ethan, she said, voice soft but ironclad. For you, the crew, my people. Ethan's jaw clenched, mind reeling. He wanted to argue, but her violet eyes, fierce yet fragile, silenced him. Fine, he whispered, voice hoarse. But you better live. Silvara approached the core, her veins flaring like exploding stars. She raised her hands, blue energy merging with the core's red glow, sparking a light storm. The ghost ship shook violently, the reactor's roar fading. A blinding explosion threw Ethan back. Silvara! He screamed, lunging through thick smoke, heart hammering. He found her crumpled near the core, veins barely glowing, nearly extinguished. He knelt, pulling her into his arms, hands trembling as he touched her cold skin. Don't leave me, he whispered, voice breaking. Major, we gotta go! Ramirez yelled, blasting the last drone. Kane supported Torres, blood still flowing. Ethan lifted Silvara, sprinting to the shuttle, each step fighting the fear of losing her. They piled in, the shuttle launching as the ghost ship collapsed, its red glow dying in the void. Back on Aurora Dawn, Ethan rushed Silvara to the medbay, laying her on a bed, eyes fixed on her face. Her veins were nearly invisible, and fear gripped his chest. He'd led his team through hell, but now, he wasn't sure he could save her, or himself. The shuttle tore through space, engines screaming, returning to Aurora Dawn amidst the glittering debris of the ghost ship. Inside, Ethan cradled Silvara tightly, his heart pounding as if it might shatter, his blue eyes fixed on her face. Her blue veins were faint, nearly extinguished, her breath shallow as a fading breeze. You have to live, he whispered, voice hoarse, hands trembling as he held her closer. Ramirez, pale and shaken, sat beside Torres, who groaned from his shoulder wound. Kane checked the controls, voice urgent. 3 minutes to Aurora, Major! The mothership's crew crackled over the comms, their panicked voices reporting engine damage and collapsed shields. Ethan clenched his jaw, eyes blazing. They'd won, but the cost was steep, and if Silvara didn't wake, this victory would mean nothing. The shuttle docked in the hangar, doors sliding open, and Ethan rushed out, carrying her straight to the medbay, his heart heavy as lead. In Aurora Dawn's medbay, soft white light bathed Silvara, lying on a bed, her shimmering skin barely glowing. The blue veins, once blazing like fire, now pulsed slowly, like a fragile heartbeat. Ethan Carver sat beside her, holding her hand, fingers gently squeezing, feeling the faint warmth returning. His face was taut, but his blue eyes softened as she stirred, her violet eyes fluttering open. Don't scare me like that again, he said, voice rough with relief and lingering fear. Silvara gave a weak smile, her violet eyes glinting, though their light was dim. I promised I'd get to Centauri with you, didn't I? She teased, her trembling voice clinging to playfulness. Ethan squeezed her hand tighter, a faint smirk tugging at his lips, the weight in his chest easing. But the fleeting joy shattered as the door slid open, Captain Patel stepping in, his stern face etched with tension. He stood rigid, eyes flicking from Silvara to Ethan. Major, I need to speak privately, Patel said, voice low, but Ethan shook his head, his gaze sharpening. Speak here. No secrets. Patel hesitated, then nodded, his voice dropping. I found the traitor. It's Ramirez. The name struck Ethan like a blade, stealing his breath, leaving him stunned. Ramirez? His comrade through years of battles, the woman he trusted like a sister, who'd faced death with him countless times. You sure? He asked, voice cold, though his grip on the chair trembled. Patel nodded, offering a data device. The internal signal sent before the pirate attack. I traced it, all points to Ramirez's comm station. Ethan's jaw tightened, blood rushing to his head. He stood, eyes blazing, and without a word, stormed from the medbay, boots slamming against the metal floor. The corridors were frigid, but the fury in him burned like fire. Silvara, though weak, struggled to her feet, her veins faintly glowing, following him, her violet eyes filled with concern. "Ethan!" she called, but he didn't turn, his heart a leaden weight. In the brig, Ramirez sat on a steel chair, hands cuffed, head bowed, her dark hair a tangled curtain over her face. The door slid open, and Ethan stepped in, his eyes like daggers. "Why, Sophia?" he asked, voice raw with pain, fist clenched, nails biting into his palms. Ramirez looked up, eyes red, tears streaming. "Karith promised to save my family on the Epsilon colony," she said, her voice breaking. "My mother, my brother, they're trapped there, under Caritha's control. I had no choice." Her confession was salt in an open wound, making Ethan turn away, teeth grinding to cage his rage. "Family's no excuse for betraying us," he growled, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of empathy. He knew the agony of impossible choices, but his crew had nearly died because of her. Ethan ordered Ramirez confined, his voice ice. "Keep her here until Centauri. The council will decide." Ramirez bowed her head, silent. As the brig door sealed, Ethan stood in the corridor, slamming his fist against the wall, the metal ringing. The sting of betrayal cut deeper than any blade. He'd trusted Ramirez, but now that trust lay shattered, leaving a cold void. Silvara approached, still weak, her veins pulsing slowly. She stood beside him, not touching, but her violet eyes held understanding. "Humans are more complex than I thought," she said softly, more observation than judgment. Ethan nodded, his gaze heavy, staring down the dim, frost-laced corridor. "Sometimes that complexity saves us," he said, voice rough. "Sometimes it destroys us." He turned to her, suspicion creeping in. Ramirez had betrayed them, but had Silvara told him everything? Was she an ally or a greater threat? He clenched his fist, resolved to protect the ship, no matter the cost. Back in the command deck, Ethan ordered a full sweep of the comm systems, ensuring no further signals leaked out. Aurora Dawn limped through space, engines groaning, but the crew remained steadfast. Ethan stared at the screen, where distant stars twinkled. Ramirez was a bitter lesson, but he knew the real challenge lay ahead, and Silvara, with her star pulse and secrets, was the key. He couldn't let emotions cloud his judgment, not now. Aurora Dawn crawled through space, engines whimpering, its hull scarred from battle. In the command deck, Ethan Carver stood before the damage report screen, his icy blue eyes scanning the dire stats. Power was nearly gone, shields teetering, the crew exhausted. Silvara Vren stood beside him, her blue veins pulsing faintly, but her violet eyes resolute. "There's a hidden Velas station in the nearby ion cloud," she said, her voice clear and certain. "My father built it as a sanctuary for those who believed in interspecies peace." Ethan frowned, gripping the captain's chair. "Why mention it now?" he asked, voice low, suspicion stirring. Silvara gave a faint smile, her gaze unwavering. "Because I needed you to trust me, Ethan." He studied her, mind racing. After Ramirez's betrayal, trust was a luxury, but Aurora was dying, and they had no choice. "Fine," he growled, voice hard. "Patel, calculate coordinates. Steer for the ion cloud." Patel nodded, fingers dancing over the console, eyes tense. The ship tilted, engines screeching in protest, but plunged into the darkness, where the ion cloud loomed, shimmering with ethereal light. Ethan ordered the floodlights on, revealing a colossal structure gleaming like crystal, hidden in the mist. Its sharp edges reflected light like a jewel in the void. The ship docked in the station's hangar, doors sliding open to reveal surviving Velas, their shimmering skin like Silvara's, veins glowing brightly. They bowed, greeting her as a queen, calling her bearer of the star pulse. An elderly Velas in a silver robe stepped forward, voice deep and resonant. "Princess Silvara, we've awaited you." Silvara nodded, her violet eyes tinged with sorrow. "I carry my father's hope," she said softly. Ethan stood beside her, hand ready on his sidearm, eyes scanning the crowd. He didn't trust flowery words, not after everything. The Veilus led them into the station, where technology surpassed the alliances: glowing walls, autonomous machines, air pristine as untouched worlds. They repaired Aurora Dawn with astonishing speed, upgrading shields, engines, and adding new plasma cannons that gleamed with blue light. Ethan watched, half awed, half wary. "If they can do this, why do they need you?" he asked Silvara, voice low. She met his gaze, her veins flaring. "Because I carry the pure star pulse," she said. "And they need me for the ritual." Ethan's brow furrowed. "What ritual?" she sighed. "To activate the full star pulse, awakening the station's power." "But it could kill me." Her words struck like a blade, and Ethan grabbed her hand, eyes blazing. "No, Silvara. No more sacrifices." She smiled, her hand brushing his. "If I don't, Karith wins." Before he could argue, the Veilus led them to a vast chamber, its crystal walls reflecting light. At its center, a radiant circle glowed like a miniature galaxy. Silvara stepped inside, her veins transforming into intricate star map patterns, shimmering on her skin. Ethan stood outside, heart pounding, fists clenched. The ritual began, light from the circle enveloping Silvara, energy roaring. She reached out, touching Ethan, and a strange energy surged through him, as if their minds merged. He saw fleeting visions, stars, wars, and a human standing beside Silvara. "You're part of this destiny," she whispered, her voice echoing in his mind. "My father foresaw a human at my side." Ethan shook his head, voice low. "I'm just a pilot, Silvara." She smiled, violet eyes blazing. "You're more than that." The energy surged, Silvara trembling, her veins dazzling. Ethan held her hand, eyes resolute. "You have to survive," he said, voice firm. She nodded, but fear flickered in her gaze. The light tightened, energy erupting, and Silvara collapsed, her veins dimming. Ethan rushed forward, catching her, heart hammering. "Silvara!" he shouted, but she was unconscious. The Veilus stood around, eyes reverent. "The bearer has awakened the station," they said. Ethan lifted her, eyes blazing. He didn't care about destiny or prophecies, he just wanted her alive. Aurora Dawn left the Veilus station, engines roaring, its hull gleaming with new tech. Ethan Carver stood in the command deck, his icy blue eyes scanning the screen, where stars twinkled peacefully. But peace didn't last. A shrill radar ping erupted, and Captain Patel shouted, "Major, fleet detected! Not Alliance!" The main screen blazed, revealing a Karith armada, sleek black warships spear-like, led by a massive dreadnought. General Zarkis' image appeared, his gray face grim, red eyes burning like coals. "Surrender the princess or die," he growled over the comms, voice cold as ice. Ethan's jaw tightened, gripping the captain's chair. "Go to hell, Zarkis!" he snarled, cutting the link. "Patel, raise shields! Prime Veilus plasma cannons!" The crew sprang into action, eyes tense but resolute. Silvara stood beside Ethan, her blue veins pulsing rapidly, violet eyes locked on the screen. "They're here for me," she said, voice trembling but firm. Ethan turned, eyes blazing. "They won't touch you. Not on my watch." The Karith ships unleashed a barrage of red energy, slicing through space. Aurora dodged, Veilus shields flaring, deflecting the blows. Ethan ordered a counterattack, plasma cannons firing blue beams, shredding an enemy ship. But the Karith fleet outnumbered them, encircling like wolves. Amid the chaos, Silvara grabbed Ethan's hand, her violet eyes flashing panic. "I have to tell you the truth," she whispered, voice urgent. "The star pulse isn't just energy. It can activate an ancient Veilus superweapon, capable of wiping out the galaxy. Karith wants it, and I could accidentally trigger it if I lose control." Her confession hit like a blade, stunning Ethan. "A superweapon?" He squeezed her hand, eyes resolute. "You won't lose control, Silvara. I'm here." She nodded, but her veins glowed fiercely, betraying fear. Ethan turned to the screen, roaring, Patel, focus fire on the dreadnought. Kane, Delta evasion pattern. Aurora weaved, cannons blazing, but the Karith retaliated, a massive beam striking the engines, shaking the ship. Shields at 60%. Patel yelled, fingers racing over the console. The situation grew dire. The Karith tightened their net, Zarkis' dreadnought firing a colossal energy burst, making Aurora's shields flicker. Ethan looked at Silvara, heart pounding. Got a plan? He asked, voice low. She nodded, her veins blazing like blue fire. I can use the star pulse to create a shockwave, temporarily disabling their ships, she said. But it'll drain me. Ethan grabbed her shoulders, eyes fierce. Don't, Silvara. We'll find another way. She shook her head, smiling faintly. There is no other way, Ethan. Trust me. She stepped to the deck's center, raising her hands, her veins erupting in light. Blue energy radiated, vibrating the air. The crew watched, awestruck. Silvara cried out, her clear voice cutting through the ship's roar, and a shockwave exploded from her, rippling through space. The Karith fleet froze, their lights snuffing out, as if short-circuited. Aurora broke free, but Silvara collapsed, her veins nearly dark, skin pale. Ethan rushed to her, cradling her, heart hammering. Don't leave me, Silvara! He shouted, voice breaking, hands trembling as he touched her face. She was unconscious, breaths faint, veins barely flickering. Medbay now! He ordered, carrying her through the corridors, the crew clearing the way. In the medbay, he laid her on a bed, eyes never leaving her. You have to live, he whispered, gripping her hand. Patel entered, voice tense. Caritha's fleet is rebooting, Major. We've got minutes. Ethan's jaw tightened, eyes blazing. Prep for hyperspace. We're getting to Centauri, no matter what. But looking at Silvara, he knew the cost might be her, and his heart. Aurora Dawn limped through space, engines groaning, its hull scarred from war. In the medbay, Silvara lay still, her blue veins flickering faintly, like a dying flame. Ethan Carver stood beside her, his icy blue eyes locked on her, hand gripping the bed's edge. Each weak breath she took was a knife in his chest. You have to live, he whispered, voice rough, as if commanding the universe itself. Centauri Station loomed on the screen, a steel fortress gleaming among the stars, their final destination. Ethan clenched his jaw, turning to Captain Patel. Prep for docking. Signal the Alliance Council. We've got what they need. The ship docked in Centauri's hangar, metal clanging. Ethan, clutching Silvara's father's dated ship, descended the ramp, eyes resolute. The crew followed, carrying Silvara on a medical stretcher, her face pale but still ethereal. The Alliance Council awaited in the briefing room, stern faces from various species studying Ethan. He plugged in the chip, holographic images flaring, Caritha's plans, stolen star pulse weapons, and the genocide of the Veilus homeworld. Karith wants to rule the galaxy, Ethan said, voice deep and commanding. This is proof. Act or we all die. The council murmured, eyes wide with shock. A Zorith representative, eyes glittering, stood. Major Carver, the Veilus girl, where is she? Ethan's fist clenched, eyes blazing. She's fighting to live for you. For all of us. Before they could respond, an emergency signal blared. The main screen lit up, showing General Zarkis cuffed, but his red eyes still burned. You won this round, he growled over the comms. But the star pulse will destroy everything. The princess can't control it forever. The feed cut, leaving a heavy silence. Ethan's heart raced, Zarkis' words reigniting fears of Silvara's superweapon. He rushed to the medbay, where she'd just woken, sitting up, her veins faintly glowing but stable. Ethan, she whispered, violet eyes sparkling. He grabbed her hand, sitting beside her, relief warring with tension. No more scares, he said, voice rough, a faint smirk breaking through. Silvara smiled weakly. I promised Centauri, didn't I? She tried to joke, but pain lingered in her gaze. The council summoned them the next day. Silvara, though frail, stood beside Ethan, fierce as a warrior. The Zorith representative spoke, voice resonant. Princess Silvara, Major Carver, we propose you serve as ambassadors for the Human-Veilus Alliance. Together you stopped Karith. We need you to build peace. Silvara nodded, her veins flaring. For my father, my people, I accept. Ethan frowned, glancing at her. If she's in, I'm in, he said, voice low, drawing a smile from her. After the meeting, they stood on the observation deck, Earth visible in the distance, a blue gem in the dark. The air was still, only the ship's faint hum audible. Silvara tilted her head, violet eyes mischievous. Ever think a thermal blanket would lead us here? She teased. Ethan chuckled, pulling her close, hand on her shoulder, feeling the warmth of her veins. No, he said, voice deep, eyes locked on hers. But I know we'll face anything together. He gazed at Earth, heart heavy. Zarkis's threat lingered, the star pulse, the superweapon, and the risk of Silvara losing control. He squeezed her hand, eyes resolute. If Karith comes back, they'll regret it, he said, voice firm. Silvara nodded, her veins blazing like unyielding fire. Together, she whispered. They stood, two silhouettes against the vast cosmos, ready for any challenge ahead, for peace, for each other. 3 months after Aurora Dawn docked at Centauri, Ethan Carver and Silvara Vren stood before the Alliance Council, eyes resolute as they accepted their roles as ambassadors for the Human-Veilus Alliance. The days that followed were a whirlwind of tense meetings, negotiations with other species, and designing stellar harmony, a diplomatic ship, a symbol of newfound peace, built with Veilus tech and Alliance steel. Ethan, once at home dodging plasma storms, now learned to navigate politics, always with Silvara at his side, her blue veins glowing like a guiding flame. As stellar harmony launched from Centauri, bound for Earth, Ethan looked at her, heart heavy with hope and dread. They'd defeated Karith once, but the universe never stopped testing, and he knew this journey was just beginning. 3 months post-victory, stellar harmony glided through space, its crystal hull shimmering under starlight. The new diplomatic ship, emblem of the Human-Veilus Alliance, headed for Earth, carrying Ethan Carver and Silvara Vren. In the command deck, Ethan stood by the viewport, his blue eyes pensive, gazing at the distant galaxy. Silvara stood beside him, her blue veins radiant, no longer frail but a beacon of hope. She wore a silver Veilus robe, yet carried a warrior's resolve. "What will your family think of me?" she asked, her voice clear, violet eyes twinkling with mischief. Ethan smiled, turning, his hand brushing her shoulder. "They'll love you," he said, voice deep. "Though my mom might ask how you put up with me." Silvara laughed, a sound like wind chimes, but her gaze grew somber. "I worry they'll find me too different." Ethan took her hand, feeling the warmth of her veins. "You're Silvara, savior of the galaxy. If they don't see that, I'll make them." She smiled, leaning closer, and the command deck fell quiet, only the ship's hum lingering. But peace was fragile. Alliance intelligence reported Karith remnants regrouping, hiding in dark space. General Zarkis's warning, "The star pulse will destroy everything," haunted Ethan. He looked at Silvara, knowing the power within her. The star pulse was both hope and peril. A superweapon, in the wrong hands, could erase all. He squeezed her hand, eyes resolute. "We won't let Karith win," he said, voice firm. Silvara nodded, her veins blazing. "Not just Karith," she said. "Others lurk in the shadows. But we're stronger together." They stepped onto the observation deck, where it shone, a blue jewel in space. Its light bathed Silvara's face, her veins sparkling like a star chart. She tilted her head, voice soft but heavy with memory. "When you shared that thermal blanket on Aurora, I felt you were my destiny," she said, violet eyes locked on his. Ethan froze, then smiled, pulling her into his arms, kissing her forehead, feeling the warmth of her shimmering skin. "And you're my greatest surprise," he whispered, voice deep, eyes alight with faith. The cosmos stretched wide, brimming with danger. Stellar harmony was more than a diplomatic ship. It was a symbol of a new alliance, where humans and Veilus fought for peace. Ethan knew the trials ahead would be fiercer, not just from Karith, but from unseen enemies. He looked at Silvara, seeing strength in her, and in himself. "Ready?" he asked, voice low, hand still holding hers. Silvara smiled, her veins flaring like unyielding fire. "With you, always," she said, voice certain. They stood, two figures against the vast galaxy, Earth's light a promise on their faces. The crew of Stellar Harmony worked in sync, the ship gliding forward, carrying the hope of a future where humans and Starborn shaped destiny together. Ethan squeezed Silvara's hand, eyes blazing. "Whatever comes, we'll face it," he said. She nodded, violet eyes radiant. "Together," she whispered. With the universe open before them, they embarked on a new journey, an unbreakable alliance, ready to confront any darkness, for peace, for each other.